Hello everyone, it's Captain Sensible back again, and Mr. Smelly's asked me to do a quick fragrance review before he does his own little video. So this one is L'Odyssée and it's by Hugo Boss. It was released in 1983 and the perfumer is Peter Stringfellow. The notes on this one are bergamot, ouzo, grapefruit and tomcats. I quite like this one. I wore it to the shops the other day and I popped in Subway for a sandwich, and the young girl behind the counter said to me, "Oh, you smell nice." I said, "Oh, that's very forward of you. Why don't you let me take you out for a slap-up meal after work? I'll get you the prawn cocktail, steak and chips and a chocolate gâteau." She said, "Yeah, that's very nice of you, sir, but just tell me, is it a 6-inch or a foot long?" I said, "Blimey, you're straight to the point." Well, I wouldn't say it was a foot long, but I've had no complaints. And she said, "Okay then, sir, would you like any sauce with that?" I said, "I think this conversation's saucy enough already." Then she said, "Now, will you be wanting a Slurpee?" I said, "I've never heard it called that before, but I won't say no." Anyway, the fragrance performed quite well, and it left quite a nice sillage trail as the security guard escorted me out of the shopping centre.
Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be having a look at fragrances by the house of Alexandria Fragrances. So this company mainly produce clone or copy fragrances which are inspired by and, well, copying more expensive, mainly niche but sometimes designer fragrances. What they do is very similar to what the house of Dua Fragrances do, and indeed the man behind Alexandria Fragrances is Hani Hafez, who used to be with Dua Fragrances. He's now gone out on his own. So when I did my Dua Fragrances video, a lot of people mentioned Alexandria and said, why don't you talk about those too? So I've been sent some samples. I didn't get full bottles, but they've sent me some samples of their fragrances, and so rather than take every one and talk about them, I think I got 6 or 7. I just took the 3 or 4 that I think might be most interesting and where I have the original fragrance to compare to, and I think that I have the most to say. So let's have a look at them. I'll kick off with the most obvious one. So they do have a copy, surprise, surprise, of Creed Aventus. So Creed Aventus, of course, the big popular one in the fragrance community or in society in general nowadays as the kind of most popular niche fragrance out there. Pineapple, apple, blackcurrant, bergamot in the opening. Birchwood in the base, giving a kind of smoky, woody accord, and there's ambergris, the Creed note that comes from the whale's digestive tract, and also, depending where you look, oak moss and some sort of masculine notes, so patchouli, and there's also vanilla and blackcurrant, giving it a certain sweetness. A great fragrance, not my favourite ever fragrance, Creed Aventus, but of course a very good one. So I've got this paper strip with each one, and I have worn them and compared them on my skin as well. So Brasilia is the clone by Alexandria Fragrances. So the original Creed Aventus is here. Here's Brasilia. They're very, very close. They're not identical, but they've done a good job here with the clone. It's not perfect. The opening's not quite the same, and if you really, really know and love Aventus, you'll dig in and find a subtle difference in the air. The overall smell that it's going to create is going to be very hard for most people to distinguish. So it's a good copy. It's definitely better than Club de Nuit Intense Man, the famous cheap one from Armaf. I quite like Al Haramain's La Venture, but I do that's quite a low price as well. This one, let's talk about prices actually. So for a 60ml it's $60, or the 30ml is $40, pretty much $39.99 or whatever. So it's not super cheap. These are not really, really cheap, but they are a little bit cheaper actually, or better value per mil than Dua Fragrances. So you may say that they represent better value for money. And this one it smells really good, and it's a good copy of Aventus. Is it better than my other real favourite one, Pineapple Vintage or Pineapple Vintage Intense? Pretty close actually, pretty close. Pineapple Vintage has a little bit of its own character and feels a little bit more like it was actually made by traditional perfume making techniques from the bottom upwards, whereas this one I very much feel it's been reverse engineered. But if you don't care about the process and it's just the end product that interests you, it does come out smelling remarkably similar. I'd probably slightly favour Pineapple vintage intense because it's got its own thing. It feels more like a different smell with its own character, just a little bit, but it is very close, particularly Pineapple Vintage Intense to Aventus. This one though, also very, very good quality clone, great performance, pretty much the same as Aventus, a good, not beast mode, but a good performing scent, and as it dries down, gets very, very close. And Night does have that, captures that sweetness of Aventus, which the vanilla and blackcurrant are creating. And just in the opening, maybe there was more of a noticeable difference. It lacked that really kind of champagne-like crisp opening that Aventus had, but it was a good opening, just not quite as great as Aventus. So very good job on that one, and one of the many great options out there if you want a more affordable Aventus clone. So Brasilia, a good one from Alexandria Fragrances. They also have a La Nuit de l'Homme clone, YSL's La Nuit de l'Homme. I've got a 2012 bottle, so let's compare the two. Again, I've worn them on skin, but I've got them on paper today to remind myself. So Ombre Noir is the name of the Alexandria Fragrances version. There it is, and again, it's a nice fragrance. The original La Nuit de l'Homme, then you've got lavender and cardamom are two of the key notes there. There's some vetiver in there as well, a bit of bergamot as well, giving it some freshness in the beginning. There's a bit more difference between the two, and nobody seems to be able to capture La Nuit de l'Homme exactly. I've recently talked about Suave, coincidentally from Parfums Vintage, which is very good, but it has a little bit more of a greenness and a freshness about it. And again, the Alexandria Fragrances copy has a little bit more of a greenness and a freshness, especially in the opening. You notice a difference, but as they dry down, they do become remarkably close, and I find that the performance is a little bit better on the Alexandria one. They have a lot of perfume oils in these fragrances. They're strong concentration, more like your extract de parfum concentration compared to the Eau de Toilette. So it is a really good performing scent, and broadly very, very similar, maybe 85-90% similar to my 2012 La Nuit de l'Homme. But if you're an absolute fanatic for La Nuit de l'Homme, you could detect some differences, so you may be disappointed. The price is better on Ombre Noir. It's down at, I think, $31.99 for a 60ml. So because it's only a designer fragrance they're copying, they give you a better deal. That is a good thing. I like that. So yeah, definitely a really good option, worth considering if you're looking for a La Nuit de l'Homme clone. Great present for someone who used to like La Nuit de l'Homme, and perhaps they're frustrated that the modern version doesn't perform. So definitely a very good job of cloning La Nuit de l'Homme. Not perfect, but it's good. It performs nicely, and you may well enjoy that one. Moving on then, Interlude Man. They've cloned the Amouage Blue Beast. So this is a bit much more challenging fragrance probably to capture the essence of. So this one has got a Popanax, Oregano, frankincense, it's got oud wood in it, it's got a real smokiness, a woodiness, and this exotic accord coming from the incense mixed with the oud. I guess there's leather, patchouli and sandalwood as well. So a real beastly strong, winter appropriate, nighttime kind of scent. Frightening stuff really. Amouage Interlude Man. I just have a little sample or a few mils in there in a decant. Never really seen fit to go out and buy a bottle of that one. I was interested to own some, but it's one where you perhaps don't need a 100ml bottle of the original unless you're one of the rare people who can pull off wearing that on a regular basis. Anyhow, the clone then from Alexandria Fragrances. Let's compare them. Again, I've worn them on skin, and here we have them on paper. They've done a really good job on this one actually. So this, I've left out some. I've picked out the ones that I'm most interested in. And I almost forgot to mention the name of the Alexandria fragrance is Aromatic Conflict. Very, very good clone. If you are an expert on Interlude Man and you wear it a lot, and even for me, digging in, yes, they're not identical, but they're very, very close. Performance, broadly in the same kind of very strong vein with this one. So a really strong performer. Obviously it costs less than the Amouage, very expensive niche fragrance. So definitely an option for fans of that fragrance who don't want to go and splash out on a big 100ml bottle. You could get the 30ml or something for $40, and it's going to get you very, very close to the smell of the original. Is it perfect? Is it exactly the same? Probably not. There's a psychological thing too. Do you want to just own a clone? Isn't it nicer to own the real thing? So with all of these clones, there's that factor as well, that psychologically you're going to know you're not wearing the real thing. But yes, they do smell very good.
This bloke is useless. I don't know why he bothers. Absolutely hopeless. Look at that pocket hanky. Pure polyester, that is. Useless.
Is it real perfume making? They probably just have a machine because they bang out a lot of fragrances. They feed the information in it, tells them what to put in it, and they produce their clone. So it doesn't have the art that we get with a real perfume that's been made by a perfumier, where they've done different versions and trialed it for months and really thought about what they wanted to do. That hasn't happened here. Someone's just copied it. So that's the downside to all these clone houses, but it's a good job that they've done here. The value for money is pretty good, and you're going to smell very close to the original fragrance site, and the performance is really, really good and strong. So it's very similar to the Dua fragrances line. They're really good. They smell very similar. It's probably the same technique being used. You have to say the prices are a little bit lower on these, but I really do like some of the Dua fragrances, and the ones that have blown my mind so far most, where Dua have taken a Creed one like Millesime Imperial or Silver Mountain Water, which are both weak performing creeds, and they've made them super, super strong. Unfortunately, the ones I've got here are different ones, so I can't do a direct comparison, but yeah, I'm a fan of both houses to some extent so far. It is getting hard to get wildly excited with so many different clone houses now, and I think there's fatigue for everyone in the fragrance community with clones. So like the rest of you probably, I can't get wildly excited, but I can see there's value in these products, and they are they do a good job of smelling like the thing they're copying. You've got to give them that. Last but by no means least, they do have some originals, and one that I've really enjoyed that they sent me, and they gave me a slightly larger travel spray, Alex Signature, a gourmand fragrance, Madagascar vanilla, sandalwood and some balsamic accords with a little bit of citrus. Reminds me of 4160 Tuesday's sexiest scent on the planet ever. It's a really nice wearable gourmand sweet fragrance, nice woody element, maybe some ISO-E super's been used. I know that's in the 4160 Tuesday one that I find it similar to. Very sweet but balanced, nice woody note to it, and a really good performer as well. So definitely worth checking out if you're interested in this house. They do have some original stuff, and this one smells really, really good. So Alexandria Fragrances doing a thing that we're having going on a lot in our community now, copying more expensive fragrances, producing strong concentrations of oil. They don't smell exactly the same as the original, but they're very, very close, and they're better value for money. Very comparable to Dua fragrances. You can pick whichever house you like. They don't all produce all the exact same copies of the same thing. So one house might have your favourite version of Millesime Imperial, and these guys maybe do the best La Nuit de L'Homme clone. I don't know where they've got two the same. I haven't yet compared, but I think there's a place for these guys. They produce good, strong smelling, reasonably affordable fragrances, but they are just copies. You might want to say, I either want to spend a lot and buy the real thing, or I'll just get a dirt cheap copy. It's up to you. They're good, they're not going to change the world, and they won't replace the real thing, but they are worth considering, in my opinion, as part of the world of fragrances that's out there for you to try if you like. Let me know what you think about Alexandria, Dua fragrances, any other clone copies, or the whole concept of copies in general. Remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Well, that was a complete waste of time as usual.